Hello, hello, hello. Happy Sunday. Thanks for joining me on this lovely live stream. Let me know if you can hear me. I hope I hope you guys can. Ever since that whole Zoom thing that I was trying to do the other day, I was not confident. I'm never going to be confident again about my sound. So, it is March 27th. It's going to be my last live stream for March. I can't believe it. Oh wait, actually. Something is playing. Sorry, guys. All right, let me get out of that. So I think we're good now. I think we're okay. Let me know in the chat if you guys, if the audio is good now. Sorry, I think there was something weird that was playing there. All right, so today we're going to be talking about directing and what's going to make you a better director, things you should keep in mind as a director if that is something you want to do in your career. Now, the thing is that not everyone wants to be a director, and that's okay. And if you want to be a director, that's okay too. I don't aspire to be a director, but I've worked so many years next to directors, and I can definitely pinpoint the ones that are really, really good, the ones that are not so good, and I'm trying to give you the upper hand here. So let me know in the chat where you guys are watching from, if you're with me. I'm glad that you guys are here. So again, happy Sunday, and we're going to jump right in to talking about what's going to make you a better director. And honestly, like, this is more for when you're trying to excuse me, when you're trying to actually make your project. Now, this is not like, beforehand when you're like writing your script or like trying to get your crew together or you're like directing / producing. This is like when you're on set, you're making your things, you're in prep, you're in production. So it's for that process. Right, so hi to everyone out there. Hi to Dennis. Silent Shred, thank you for joining me again. I love having you. Let's see. Sorry, I'm tripping out. My OBS is tripping out on me right now. I'm sorry. All right. There we go. Okay. All right. Things are on my end are okay now. Oh my goodness. Let me see. Oh my gosh. All right, I want to look at the chat. See who's with me. So hello to Dennis. Okay, good. Dennis, you can hear me? Thank you, Silent Shred, for always being my you guys are like always there to like be like, yo, it's okay. Odell Leons Harris, I aspire to be a writer director, and hello from Texas. Thank you for joining from Texas. Dennis is in Pittsburgh, Illinois. Oh, Silent Tread, I didn't know you were from Illinois. That's really I feel like some of you guys have been on this live stream with me every Sunday, and I just have no idea where you've been from. You've been like coming back week after week, and I love that. We got Reno, Nevada, and of course, Andrew, I know you're from the UK. Dennis, you have a few short films I have directed, but can always do better, so I'm here for the tips. Amazing. Silent Tread, always a pleasure to learn here. So thank you guys so much. So I'm just going to start with like very, very simple things, and it's kind of like, it's some people are gonna be like, well, of course. But then some of you might be like, well, I never even thought about that. So definitely let me know in the chat, like how you guys are feeling about these tips, and give this video a like, obviously, to support Beyond Film School, because I love the support and positivity you guys give me. I love it. So I'm gonna start with probably one of the more basic things to keep in mind when you want to be a director or to be a better director is know that you are a leader. Okay, you are a leader. And I think a lot of people who are, aspiring to be directors are creatives. We're all creatives, right? So people who work in the film industry, there may be a lot of logistical things or whatever. Like, I'm a creative, but I'm an assistant director, and some people would like to say like, oh, well, that's not creative. But you know what? I get fucking hella creative with my problem solving skills. Let me tell you. So creativity is not always the traditional like making art. So, but when you're directing, a lot of people kind of well, I'm just an artist. I'm just a creative person. I'm not a leader. But when you are directing, you are a leader. You are a leader of that crew, and you have to always keep that in mind because people are looking to you to say yes or no. You're deciding things. You are kind of like, you're the captain of the ship. Remember that. Just like keep that in mind. You have to remember that you are the leader. And some leadership thing, there are tons of leadership books you can read, how to get the best out of people, because remember, you have maybe 10, 20, 50, 100 crew members behind you, trying to make the thing that you are envisioning and trying to bring to life. So just keep that in mind, that you are a leader in this. And I think that sometimes gets forgotten, and I've worked with a lot of directors that don't see themselves as the leader of the crew. And it's like, we're doing this for you, man. We're doing this for you to make your movie, your TV show, or, whatever project it happens to be that you're directing. We're doing it for you. Keeping that in mind, it's like, you have to make sure that you hone your leadership skills, have that confidence, just being there, making people feel empowered. And because part of being a leader is making sure that you get the best out of people and they're working for you, and keeping that in mind, and like treating the people who are like, I guess I don't want to say below you, but who are like you are leading, you want to make sure you get the best out of them and you're empowering them to do better for you. That whole like, you have a mission. The mission is to complete the project, and you have to lead that team to success. And success is like finishing because let me tell you, there are so many movies out there, short films, commercials that just don't get finished. Okay, so being a leader, that's probably like number one thing I want you guys to remember, being a leader. And definitely like I don't want to say I'm obsessed with being a leader, because as a first AD, we're also leaders of set, and we're like the right hand to the director when we're on set. So I read a lot of leadership books. I listen to a leadership podcast because I'm like always trying to figure out, also like me as an AD, like I have PAs I'm leading on set. So I'm always keeping in mind, like, how can I do better? How can I be a better leader? And that's the same for directors too. So just keep that in mind. Like, just, I think John Maxwell is a really, really good author of leadership books. He also has a podcast that he has. And I love listening to this man because he is like he used to be like a pastor or like but he now talks about leadership in like a real gospel type way. And I like love that style in a weird way. I don't know why, but I'm like always like, yes, I'm like motivated to be like a better leader. So leadership, definitely keep that in mind when you are like thinking about trying to be a director. Okay. You can't shy away to, thinking about like, can I lead them? Because whether you can or not, you're going to have to. So just keep that in mind. All right, so my next one. And if you guys have any questions, of course, put them in the chat. We will definitely address the things that you are thinking about. Any comments, definitely concerns, anything, put them in the chat. Like 100%, we will talk about it. Let's check out the chat. Let's see what's happening. Oh, like Marvin is here. Hello, Marvin. Hello, Julian. Julian. There's an echo? Oh, no, there's an echo. Okay, let me see what I can do. If there is an echo, someone tell me. I will take that out. I hope there's not an echo. This is going to be like... Hello, Chesko. Hello, hello. So thank you guys all for joining me. Please confirm if you are hearing an echo. If it's just Julian, then it's going to be him. But if everyone is hearing an echo, definitely I'll just change my microphone. I'm hoping this is not. Let me know in the chat, guys. Let me see. All right. I don't know if this is going to help. Otherwise, hey, Jack. Jack is back. Jack is back. And Ennis is here. Hello, hello, hello. Thanks for joining me, guys. Thank you so much. I'm hoping this helps. Okay, so Silent Tread, you're not getting an echo. I'm hoping that things are okay. I'm okay. I'm just gonna move on here. I don't know. Oh my god. So thank you so much. Okay, sounds okay, Nancy. Okay, yeah. So silent chat, please refresh, please. It always makes me nervous when I'm like, oh my god, sound. The sound in live streams is like the bane of my existence. I swear to God. So for my next one, okay, good. Thank you, Chesco. Thank you so much. For my next one is gonna be safety. It's gonna be safety because a lot of directors, let me tell you, they do not keep safety in mind when it comes to filmmaking, when it comes to their crew, when it comes to themselves, when it comes to their actors. So you definitely have to keep safety in mind because here's the thing. Like when you are on set and your vision is in your head and you're trying to express your vision, you're trying to bring it to life, there are some crazy things you might have in your head and you're like, oh my God, underwater this, or like action this and that. And you have to just make sure things are in place to keep your crew and your actors safe. And I've definitely told this story before where I was a first AD on a short film and then they all of a sudden wanted to add a shot and they're like, I really want this shot of like, the arm is going to go under the roll gate and then it's going to go down and we're going to see like, oh, he just makes it. And I was like, okay, as a first AD, as a safety officer on set, yes, I am the safety officer on set, but as a director, you don't want to push your crew into the unsafe way of shooting. Okay. So I just want to stress safety is such a big deal when it comes to filmmaking because we do some dangerous things and we want to make sure it looks realistic and, like all these fight scenes and actions and shooting and all this stuff. So I just want to make sure that directors, when you're coming up, even when you're making your small things, when you're making your small little projects, that you're keeping safety in mind, whether it's union or not. You have people that you are, you're leading your team of people to finish this project for you, so you have this thing that you had in your head and now it's like a tangible thing that you can actually show to other people. Like the vision is out of your head and you can show it to people, but you want to make sure in that whole process that you're keeping people safe and you're not like abusing anyone in any way or making them do things that are putting their lives at risk. And I think that there are so many directors that are like, even in the union world, who are just, they don't care. They're like, I want this shot, I don't care what it takes. And I think that's very selfish. And I understand that there is risk involved with certain things and certain artistic shots and angles and certain things you want to tell in your story. But you have to remember, whatever it is, you want to make sure that, the safety precautions are put in place. All right, let's Chesko, when you should have paramedics on set, is it better to just have them close by? So that's a really good question, and I'm really glad that you mentioned paramedics or a medic at all, because here's the thing: is on union sets or bigger sets who have more money, there's usually going to be a medic on standby every day. There's someone you can go to every day. Now, for example, they're going to be standing by close to set, not actually always on set, but they're close by to where people are shooting, right? Every day, that's the regular. Now, as a first and as a director, you want to make sure that when you are about to do a fight scene or you're about to do some type of action scene, maybe you're doing car chases, maybe you're doing whatever it is that might be a little risky. Maybe you're jumping from a building, jumping from a fucking helicopter. I don't know if you guys saw the last Matrix, but that was a real practical stunt that they did, jumping off a building. So and I think they did it Keanu Reeves and Trinity basically is doing this 20 times. But you had to make sure that all those things were in place. But when you're doing that, before you do it, you want to make sure you alert the medic and be like, hey, we're about to do this stunt. We're about to practice. We're about to rehearse this stunt. We're about to shoot this stunt. So you need to be close, and that's usually the first AD's job. But as a director, it's always be like, hey, is the medic close, kind of just keeping that safety stuff in mind. We all know you're thinking about art, you're thinking about your vision, but you want to make sure it's they're close by because you're about to do something and you want to eliminate that time of response, that response time that it takes the medic or whoever or the ambulance or whatever is they're aware that it's happening and they're close by. So you shorten that time because you never know. Because if it takes a long time to get there and something happens, then I'm telling you, minutes, seconds count in this matter if something were to go wrong. So, Chesko, that is actually a really good thing you brought up. Really, really great question. when you should have paramedics on set or somebody, just have them on close by. So depending on what you do, definitely have them close by. All right, so my next one is appreciation. Now this comes from seeing this not done a lot. So when you're a director, appreciation really, really goes a long way. Like, again, you are the leader, you're a captain of the ship, you were trying to make this thing happen for you, crew-wide. And I think that you have to make sure that you show appreciation for your cast and crew, because it goes a really, really long way. And I think I've seen too many times where like a director is just like, let's just do the work, let's get it done, and then like we wrap and like they don't say a word to anybody as they leave. So I think like these people are working to get your vision on screen. They're like, these actors are like taking their guards down, they're emotionally raw, and they're like exposing themselves, and the crew is like physically putting the wear and tear on their body, so it's like you have to make sure that you appreciate all the people, all the moving parts that are going on around you when you're making whatever project you're making. Because most of the time, a lot of people who are coming up as directors like start writing their own stuff. It's like, I feel like it's almost, I don't want to say very rare, but like directors who are coming up, like they're writing their own stuff, and it's kind of rare that they're not writing their own stuff. Like they may not be your strong suit, but like this thing that you wrote and like you're trying to direct, it's like your kind of like your baby that everyone's working for. And I think like, how amazing is that? First of all, like how amazing is that to like, have a group of, 10 people helping you do your short film, or like 20 people when you're like, maybe you're in film school and you're trying to do your thesis film, and like 20 people are there making your like vision come to life. I think that's utterly amazing. And I think if you don't appreciate that, it's just you're going on a really like crappy road of, kind of taking that for granted. And that's just so unfortunate. Like really, really so unfortunate if you have that mindset going in and just being like, well, they're here to work and that's it. And it's kind of like, no, like people are in this for different reasons. Like some people do look at it as a job when they're like a grip or electric or like prop person or a PA or whatever. Some people do see it as a job, but also some people are like, no, I'm in this to help you make your thing. And I mean, that's why I'm an AD, because it's like, I definitely love, helping the director get what they need to get to make their vision come to life. So just showing appreciation for like the people around you and how hard they're working goes a real, real long way. And I think it just definitely like a lot of people don't keep that in mind. And I think as you're coming up and as you're growing as a director, it's very, very important to keep that in mind. Appreciate your cast and crew 100%. Let's go back to the chat. Let's see what we got. Okay, so Victor has a really good question. Does the director necessarily have to monitor their continuity on a film set? Now, here's the thing about continuity. Like, we all know, well, if you don't know, that the script supervisor is going to be the main point person for continuity. And this is a really good question. The more eyes there are on continuity, the better. I mean, I can give you a couple disaster stories that, the director didn't see it, the script supervisor didn't see it, but, on a show I worked on, the, wardrobe department put the actors in the wrong outfit. And the people who noticed were the actors. Looks really, really bad. When you think about it that way, you're like, oh my God, how embarrassing that no one caught it. Because sometimes it's not your job as a director to keep an eye on continuity. It's not my job as a first AD to keep my eye on it. But also, if you do notice something wrong, definitely speak up and be like, hey, I think this is, let's check this, XYZ, let's figure this out together. Because I think continuity of like a lot of moving parts, when you have like different cameras, lots of props, or maybe like there's a big dinner scene or something, that's a lot of stuff to keep track of. So I think to have it solely on one person, it's very, very challenging for the script supervisor to keep track of all that stuff. I mean, while it is his or her job, it's just better if someone notices something, to speak up, and, it doesn't hurt, you know what I mean, to keep your eye on it, but it's not your main objective, if that answers the question. So just let me know in chat if you guys have any questions. I hope these are definitely like maybe not what you expected, but hopefully like this is like helpful, and just let me know in the chat if you do find it a little bit like eye-opening, I'm hoping. And definitely any comments about how like any of the things that I'm bringing up here. So my next thing, and I think as ADs who watch this will definitely understand my next point, because my next one is being decisive. Know what you want. And that is my special one as assistant director, because what happens is if you don't know what you want, we're wasting time. And when you're wasting time, you're wasting money. And when you're wasting money, it's just kind of like you're gonna run out of options to, hopefully, shoot your whole movie. You're gonna miss some things. So being decisive is very, 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 very important as a director, and I can't stress that enough. I mean, I can't tell you how many times, things have just gone awry or just been complete chaos because the director didn't know what they wanted on set. Like, we're there, maybe there wasn't a plan, and we're like, okay, well, we're here, so like tell us what we're doing, what is the action here, what do you want her to wear? And some of these things definitely should be done in prep, but sometimes, like for example, on a show that I've done, people were cast last minute the night before, and like wardrobe has to fit them the morning of, and then the director on the spot has to say, yes, I like this outfit, no, I don't like this outfit, let's change. And hopefully it's yes, because if they have to change, it takes more time. So being decisive is very, very important. And I think as a first AD, being with a director that constantly changes their mind, like, I understand if you want to change your mind when you, like, for example, maybe you tech scouted and you were there, you looked at the space, but then when everything came together, it wasn't exactly what you wanted as a director. You didn't maybe like the way the furniture was arranged for the blocking of that scene, and you're like, hey, let's change this up. That's a bit different than just, like, not knowing what you want at all. So, I mean, or constantly changing your mind. Like, you know what, let's try this. Like, there's only so much time and money we have before it's kind of like, okay, well, we can't really try anymore. We got to shoot this, or else we're going to run out of sunlight, or we're going to run out of, time for the day, or, maybe it might be this only day with the actor that you have. So there are time constraints, or definitely constraints that you definitely have to keep in mind. Being decisive will help you with that. So just know what you want as a director. And it's kind of hard because, I think the most annoying thing for me is when they're like, you know what, I'm just going to wait till I get there. I'm not going to do a shot list. I'm going to wait till I'm in the space, and then, we'll figure out from there. I'm like, oh my word. I can't put a timing on that. You know what I mean? Like, where I'm thinking like, okay, well, this is a big scene with 4 actors. I think I may need 3 hours, 4 hours, and the director didn't give me a shot list. But what do? I'm like gonna try and ballpark it, but then hey, that's what happens when you go over, because you didn't know what he wanted, she didn't know what she wanted, and you have to be decisive. Like, there's nothing wrong with having a plan and then changing it too many times. That's too much. But not knowing what you're trying to go for, just going in blind for the day, trying to figure out, I'll get there I'll figure it out when I get there on set. That's bad. That's kind of like not good. Have a general idea what you want to be doing, So be decisive. And a lot of people who claim they're creatives are like, well, I can't because of my creative brain. That's not necessarily true. I think as a creative person, you have the ability to be decisive. You like something or you don't like something, right? Like, it's not that hard. It's not that hard. So just think about your limitations as a creative, that they're not really, like, you have to get your mindset out of that, like, left brain, right brain, like, myth that is, yes, it is true, but as a creative, you don't only have, like, your left brain working, you have other things that you can, enhance your ability to be a good director, like, in all those, like, right brain type things. So you can be decisive. It is possible. And I've seen some really, really great decisive directors. Like, I've worked with Lucy Liu on New Amsterdam, and I was with her a lot throughout the day that she was directing episodes, and she was super fast. She was super decisive. She knew exactly what shot she wanted. She knew exactly what she wanted the actors to do. When every time they had questions, she was like, no, let's do this. It's more a moment of this. Like, her notes were super precise, and I was like, oh my God, this woman is amazing. Also, other directors who've been assistant directors, like directors who who were 80s in the past, like they're super decisive. It's because they know how precious that time is. And also being decisive and kind of prioritizing and picking and choosing where you you can kind of be a little bit more lax. And I think maybe to simplify that is, for example, if you are nitpicking at a scene with the actor just kind of going into the building, well, that's only an establishing shot. Maybe you should kind of put more brain power into the dialogue portion after he gets into the store, right? So it's kind of like picking and choosing where to kind of be like, you know what, let's feel this out, let's see where it goes, versus like, okay, I'm not really sure, and like just kind of nitpicking everything. So being decisive on like what you want to put less or more brain power into. I think prioritizing is a real big thing as a director, and being decisive. I have a little bit more of that like later on in this. Another point I have for kind of being decisive goes along with that. Let me check out the chat, see what's happening. Hello, thanks for joining. It is a huge mistake to make a feature. Okay, is it a huge mistake to make a feature with no experience? I wanted to make at least a short proof of concept for the feature I wrote, but sometime I feel like I won't go directly with the feature. So I have talked about this. Oh, I kind of skipped a few questions. Oh my word, there's more. Okay, so I have a video that talks about this, because I think when you're it's my 10 script writing secrets for beginner filmmakers, where I kind of lay out where it's like you want to start with your shorter things first, because if you go straight into directing a feature, you're going to make a lot of mistakes, whether you like it or not, or whether you know it or not. Like, it's just going to happen, and you're going to go in kind of blind. So your short concepts and your short films, kind of, the more you build and build and build, you're going to get better at being a filmmaker, and you're going to get better at being a director. And also you're going to figure out your style as a director too, what you like, what you don't like, So I think that I would suggest to do something smaller and then do your feature. Because if you're feeling a little bit, a little bit off about it, I wouldn't jump right into it. I definitely wouldn't jump right into a feature, because here's what's going to happen. If you feel that way jumping into it, there's a big, big chance that you won't finish it, or you can't have the endurance, which we are going to talk about endurance as well in this live stream about directing. So you have to think about how best to set yourself up for your feature that you really want to make. You want to set yourself up for the best possible outcome when it comes to doing that feature you really want made. So just keep that in mind, because you want to make your mistakes with the smaller short films, okay? With the smaller concepts, with the smaller like music videos or whatever you're going to make. You want to make your mistakes there, because when you're making those same mistakes, they cost less and they take less time to fix. And so if you were to do that and make those mistakes when you're making your feature, they're a little bit more expensive, and they're a little bit bigger, and they're a little bit harder to fix. So keeping that in mind, when you're talking about making your feature, I definitely would go with doing some smaller things first to kind of hone your skills a little bit. Victor, does a director necessarily have to monitor the continuity? Okay, we covered that. What documents, this is Francesco, what documents do you need to always have in a binder, a folder pertaining to the film? As a director, you usually have your script on you. You have your full script on you, because you can't just have the sides for the day, which are the script pages you're shooting for the day. I like to have, I want to make sure like the director has a call sheet, so they know what we're shooting, just to be clear, because sometimes everyone needs a reminder. No one is superhuman, so everyone needs a reminder. Okay, so I think that, the documents that you want to have is your full script, because your full script is going to be super useful for you, because sometimes an actor will be like, the scene before this, my motivation is this. So you want to make sure that you're like, okay, so the scene before that, what just happened before this scene? Because that always, I've seen that happen a lot on set, where they talk about like what just happened in the movie, and then it goes to this, right? And they kind of have to see the journey that's happened up to this point to get them on the same page and figure out like how to navigate this next scene that we're about to shoot. So your full script and your call sheet, two things that I definitely would have as a director on you. I hope that answers your question. I think so. All right, Jessica, when submitting to a festival, is there a situation when you lose ownership of your film? The quick answer for that for film festivals is You don't lose ownership when you're submitting to film festivals, but certain requirements, and this is going to vary per film festival, is they'll say like you can't show it anywhere else, or we have exclusive showing rights, or maybe it's the world premiere of it, so it's like you can't show it until it's shown at that film festival. So it's kind of like it varies per film festival, so you're not exactly, when you submit to them and they show them, you're not losing ownership per se, and it definitely depends on what kind of like the fine print that they have for these film festivals. But when you start losing ownership of them is when you start selling the rights to distribution companies. Like, for example, certain companies will be like, okay, well, we have the European rights. Like, you still own it, but they own the rights to it to sell it to hopefully make you money. So it definitely making sure that, like, you definitely have to make sure that you are really looking at whatever you're agreeing to when it comes to film festivals or selling your rights and ownerships and distribution companies when it comes to your film. So I hope that answered your question. Let's see. Okay, good. So wait, we're all caught up in the chat. Okay, so for my next one is you have to stay healthy. And I think a lot of people forget that as a director, even though you're kind of like put on a pedestal and you're kind of like you're treated a little bit better than everyone else on set, you're kind of catered to a little bit more. And the reason why you are is because we want you to have a clear and focused mind. We want you to be not worried about what's happening with, the grip truck that just like, the liftgate broke, or we don't want you to worry about the catering truck that's late, or, the crew member that got cut or something. Like, we don't want you to worry about all the things that are happening in production. And we're kind of like isolating the director, hopefully, away from these things so they can focus on, the brain power that it takes to make sure that they are getting the best for their script that they're trying to shoot. So staying healthy, staying hydrated, make sure you're exercise, taking care of your body, eating the right things, making sure they're not eating tons of sugar, crashing on set, being too tired, making sure that you can make it through those 15, 16-hour days. Because if you are a person that can't make it, and that you can't stay focused at hour 14 or hour 15, then things start to get a little messy. And when you're in the editing room, you're gonna be like, oh man, I should have thought of that. I should have thought this. Now that's gonna happen regardless, but you just definitely want to increase your odds. You want to increase the odds of making it the best possible thing that you can. So staying healthy is super, super critical for your mind, making sure you have the right brain food and all that stuff. So staying healthy when you're on set is very, very important, and even before you get to set. I just think that a lot of people forget about how hard it is for everyone on set, even the director, when it comes to, making movies, making TV, making those web series, those commercials. So just keep all that in mind. Like, keeping yourself healthy is very, very important, because if you can't answer questions, there's no one else to back you up. You are a one-woman show, a one-man show. You're the one that has all the answers, and if you can't give the answers, there's no one else that can. Unless you've told the first AD all these things and they remember. And I remember working with a few directors where I noticed their pattern throughout the feature that we were doing together, where they would be like, kind of like, in the early morning, they'd be like, kind of like, so I knew I had to make sure to get the information out of her the night before so I can make sure the morning was structured properly. And then she would like get her energy boost or whatever in the afternoon, and then she'd be good for the rest of the night. She wasn't a morning person. Then I've had other directors where they would be, focused, ready to go early, like more a morning person. But then when we got to hour 14 and 15, or maybe hour 12 even, they would start to lose focus. So at lunchtime, to back them up, I'd be like, okay, so for this scene, when we get there, like, I would try to get all the answers I could from the director to make sure, like, when they start losing focus, when they start, like, kind of like get going on, like running on E, like, I knew to get the answers out of them. But you want to make sure that you keep yourself healthy so you can keep focused on what we are working on for the day. Just making sure that you can have a clear mind, because it's definitely hard when you're like sleep deprived. So getting as much sleep as possible, hydrating, eating the right things, staying healthy to increase the possibility of like all the things that you wanted to do in prep, you don't forget about them, or making sure you have your notes with you. So just making sure you're clear and focused. And I think a lot of people forget about that. it's like, man, like you're that's it. That's all we got. Like, like there's no backup for you, unfortunately, unless you have a really good first AD on your side and they're like really doing you right. Okay. So the next one is kind of like, I hate that I have to say this, but the next one is to remember that your actors and your crew are human beings. Okay. And this is kind of the opposite of what I just said. This is the opposite end of the spectrum. Like I just talked about, like keeping yourself healthy, making sure you can make it through those long days and you can stay focused and clear-minded and all this stuff, right? In this instance, for, making sure that you are aware that crew and your actors are human. They are not robots. They cannot work nonstop and they have a limit. They are human beings. This is kind of involving a director where she was go, go, go. She had like an amazing amount of energy. And even at hour 19, she still wanted to keep going. And I had to step in, and so did the director of photography. We had to step in, and we're like, our crew is walking away. We're at hour 20. We still have this many pages to go. We're shutting down. And that was a decision that I supported because I'm not gonna, make the crew work 24 hours because that's insane, So, I mean, this was starting to be talked about at like hour 15, and you may have the energy, and you may be, I don't know, on speed, or some people do all different types of drugs to keep themselves going in filmmaking, but know that not everyone is going to match up to your energy or match up to whatever thing or supplement or whatever that you might have at hour 18, hour 16, hour 17, whatever the case may be. Is that know that they're human and they have limitations. Like if you've used an actor all day long and we're at hour 18 and you just want one more scene out of them and they have a crazy monologue with emotional dialogue and maybe like they're arguing, it's a whole thing. It's like that takes an emotional like toll on that actor. And like I would say an emotional, mental, and like physical toll on them as a person. So keeping that in mind, like, and I know that there has been a lot of like directors that will push their actors to the brink and like really break them, like doing take after take after take of like a 4-page scene monologue or something like that, and just kind of like taking them to the point where they just really have nothing left, and it's always like in the excuse of art. And I think that's like, you have to come to a point where you're like, okay, well, what am I doing to this actor? Because also if you're using them the next day, you think about that. Like you have to think about the long term. It's like, how important is the scene? Yes, it might be super important, checking in with the actor. Like, are you okay? Like, can you do one more or something like that? So it's always just like check in with the cast and crew, check in with them to make sure that, how they're doing. And you can't just like work a crew or actors like nonstop. Like you may be going nonstop, but I will never forget when, the story I just talked about where the crew walked away at the end of the night when they were like almost all packed up. I was still there and we were like on hour 20 because they had packed up. And it took a few hours to get out of this location. So I asked her, how many more hours did you want us to shoot? And she said to me, oh, just 4 or 5 more hours. I was like, well, you're insane. Like just that irresponsibility is just like, yes, they are working for you, but at the same time, there has to be limitations, and you cannot be like, well, they signed on for this project, they have to give me their everything. No, they don't. That's why there's like so much talk about like, film set abuse and like overworking and not paying them enough and not giving overtime, because overtime is there, double time is there to prevent. It's like that financial burden to prevent them from going over that many hours, in the union world. In the indie world, it's kind of like it's like the Wild West in the indie world, unfortunately. So it's like you have to decide as a crew and be like, we're not working anymore, lady. I'm sorry, we're not doing it. Or dude, like we're not doing it. And I've seen tantrums from directors because the crew's like, no, we're not working another couple hours for you to like, do 20 takes of this and that. So it does happen where crew will walk away from you and you've definitely had the whole crew and cast like turn on you. It happens. So just keep that in mind when you're pushing your cast and crew, like they're human. Keep that in mind. I don't know if anyone has any type of opinions about that, because I feel very, very strongly about that. So just definitely let me know in the comments like how you feel, because seriously, I've seen too many times where that's happened, where the director just really just goes overboard, and it's kind of like, no, we can't do it. We gotta call it quits. We gotta like shut down. We'll get back to this tomorrow if possible, you know? So my next one, for my next one, and this talks about like, you know, staying healthy, keeping your mind clear and focused, is, you know, you have to have endurance. Like, and not just for the day. Because when you think about all the things a director has to do, like for example, as an AD, I do a little bit of prep for a few weeks, we shoot it, and then after that, I can do whatever I want, and then I sign up for my next project. I have nothing to do with post, okay? So what a director will have to go through is way more than what I would have to go through as a assistant director or other crew members, or, you know, I think as producers as well, keeping that in mind, if my aspiring producers out there, like endurance is very much a factor, because that feature film that may have only taken 21 days to shoot will take a year to edit, will take like 6 months to color correct, or, you know, the notes back and forth between you as a director and the notes from the producer or whatever, that takes a long time. So I think a lot of people want to have like this instant gratification when it comes to their projects, or like their short films or their feature films. Like a proper short film, even if it's like 10, 12, 30 minutes, takes a long time to actually kind of finalize and actually get to the final project, the product. So like keep that in mind, like your endurance. Hopefully after you're done shooting and you've gone through editing and you've gone through that, like the rough cut and like, you know, each series of notes or whatever, like that you don't get sick of this thing. And also like making sure that you stick with it. It's kind of, people forget, like production and shooting your principal photography, like that's one thing, that's a whole other beast. But then editing and like going through the post-production process is like a whole other beast as well, and will hit you in a different way, 100%. So having the endurance to go from start to finish, finishing a project could be like a year, maybe 2 years. So you definitely have to keep that in mind as a director. It's like you can't, once you call cut on your last day of shooting, your job's not done. And I'm sure a lot of you know that, but keep that in mind, that your post-production phase of your projects can be quite long. So endurance through, you know, the shooting days, but endurance through like the whole project as a whole, making sure you can make it to the end and that you finish that thing, you finish it. My next one is about communication skills. And this is very, very important, because as a director, you have a vision of the script, and what we are going to put on the screen is what is hopefully inside your head, right? So being able to articulate your ideas is very, very important. If you cannot communicate and articulate your ideas to your first AD, to your producers, to your, you know, your actors, to everyone that is working to get this thing made, it is not good if you cannot communicate properly in what you need and what you want. And I've seen directors get really, really frustrated when they can't quite get it out of their head, because if it stays up there, it's not useful. It has to be out to everyone that's like working for you. So communication skills, if it's a lot of times like a director wouldn't be able to verbalize, but they would be able to draw it out, which is great. You know, a drawing, I'll take a drawing. Like I was like, oh, like, and I would be able to work with a director like that, no problem, because I can do things too. So I can interpret a drawing and tell, you know, the DP what is needed if they can't properly articulate it verbally. So being able to get the vision out of your head and out to everyone that is working for you is very, very important. So written communication skills, we're talking about verbal communication, and even like visual. If you can draw, amazing. And that's, I think, like, it's very, very important to storyboard. And a lot of people are like, oh, I don't need storyboards, I just need a shot list. Well, you know, a medium shot can look like 100 different ways, or a wide shot, or a wide establishing, or an extreme close-up. Like, that could be a lot of different ways. So if you are able to draw it out and articulate what your vision is through drawing or through typing it out or whatever, like, it's very, very important to make sure that you have proper communication skills as a director. Being able to articulate the ideas that are in your head and getting it out of your head so it actually can be made and be like the vision actually can come to life the way you're hoping it comes to life. And check out the chat, see what's happening. Okay. Hello, Nancy. Hello, Ghost Robles. Feel good, man. Thank you so much for joining me, guys, again. I'm just going to keep moving on here. I'm hoping this is all very helpful. Let me know. I'm hoping that, like, these are some tips that I'm hoping that you can definitely use when you are, like, directing other things. So I think my next one is going to hit people a little hard. When you are a new director, be humble. Because here's the thing, people will know whether you hide it, whether you try to hide it, or whether you're trying to just like act like you know what's going on. If you are a first-time director, there are going to be people on set that it's not their first time on a set. I hope you guys understand what I mean, because hopefully for first-time directors, you don't have first-time producers and you don't have a first-time AD, right? So because the hope is, if you are a first-time director, you have an experienced first AD to guide you through this process on set. Or you have an experienced producer to guide you through this process between like prep, production, and post-production, right? So you are going to surround yourself with hopefully people who have done this before to hopefully guide you through the process to give you the experience that you need to be a better director for the next one. So when you're a first-time director, there are going to be people around you, hopefully, that also know how to do this thing called filmmaking. And it's not as simple as just like, you know, getting the actors' performance notes, setting up camera and shooting. There's so many tiny things in between that can make or break your first, you know, directing opportunity. And you really can't go into a project when it's your first one as a director like this being like, I know it all, I've been to film school, I've done da-da-da-da, and kind of like this pompous person, and kind of like, maybe you're acting a little entitled. That is not the way to go into your first directing role at all. And I think it goes over very well being upfront and honest with your crew, being like, this is my first time directing, you know, please tell me what you need out of me. I'm willing to learn. Like that it gets accepted by crew members way, way better than being like arrogant and like overconfident, and people are just like, this guy does not know what he's doing, because no one's going to help you. And you're just going to end up forming habits as a director that are not good for you as a director. So first time, make sure you're surrounding people, hopefully people that you trust. Because sometimes what will happen is that you have been on set before and you've kind of seen what a director does a lot, and you're like, okay, this is my first time directing, but I've been on set as a script supervisor, which does happen a lot, where script supervisors move into directing a lot. And it's a good position to start in as a script supervisor, because you're next to the director a lot of the time. So, a lot of people, they think they know, they really think they know what they're getting themselves into, but then when they're finally in the role, they're like, holy shit, was not expecting this. So they may have film experience, but they don't have directing experience like you would think. So just keep that in mind, stay humble, please. And just know that like, you can ask for help. You can get some guidance. Like, obviously you are the only director, unless it's like you're the Coen brothers or something like that. I mean, some people do have co-directors, which like is a nightmare for a first AD, but like, just know that you're like the only one that's going to be the captain of the ship. So just, if it's your first time, just let people know, and they'll be more forgiving. They'll be more forgiving of you than like if you're trying to like go in there and fake it and be like, oh, I'm going to do this, that, and the other. Like, okay, just take a step back and just be like, you know what, this is your time to learn. The next one you can get a little more, and the next one, and the next one. So just like kind of building it up, and just not trying to like, that fake it till you make it thing is only going to take you so far, and people can see right through that stuff. Just an FYI. Thanks, Ghost Rolls. I'm so right. Drawing it out is better sometimes. Like, honestly. That is like so true. So for my next one, we talked about this a little bit in the beginning where I was like being decisive, right? You have to know how to pick your battles as a director. And what do I mean by this is because as a director, you're going to kind of have this push and pull. You're going to have a push and pull with the first AD. You're going to have a push and pull with the director of photography. You're going to have a push and pull with the actor as well. You're going to have a push and pull with the producer. Not all of those people are going to get along about everything. And what I mean get along is that they're going to have difference in opinion. I don't mean like argumentative type stuff. I just mean like you want something done a certain way, you want it to look a certain way, but the director of photography thinks this. Now, if you think about it, like while I'm the director, things, though that should go like as I say, like what I say goes, right? But not necessarily, because you kind of have to be like, you have to make sure that your director of photography, like that's two directors, right? Director of photography and the director, they have to, if you're not getting along, you guys should be like this. The first AD, the DP, and the director, they gotta be like this very strong bonded trifecta, okay? And if they're not, that's when things kind of get like, ugh. So if I tell you as a director, and I'm the first AD, and I tell you, listen, we don't have enough time to get this, but if we do this, we can get both things, right? And you're like, no, this has to be this and that has to be that. I'm like, well, there's only so much sunlight, sir or ma'am. So we got to pick one. Like you can't have 4 shots for each scene. Maybe you can have 2 here and 2 here, or maybe you can have 3 here and 1 here. We only have enough time for 4 setups. We don't have enough time for 6 setups or 8 setups or something like that. So like, I'm trying to negotiate with you as a director. Like, listen, what is the priority in the scene? What shot do you absolutely need, right? And we all know the editors need a lot of shots. We all know, so anyone who's an aspiring editor who may be watching this, I get it. We need to give you the most coverage as possible that we can while shooting. But if the sun's going down, man, things get like high time for like pressure, okay? And we have to decide. And as a director, if you're like, I want it all, well, you can't get it all. You got to pick one or you got to pick 2. So you got to make sure you pick your battles. So like I was saying before about that, like, how nitpicky do you want to be about an establishing shot of a guy walking to the building? When that's one shot. How nitpicky do you want to be about that one shot? But then when he walks into the building and there's like a 3-page scene between the person at the counter at the store and then this guy walking in, how many shots do you need in that store? Well, obviously you need coverage of both actors. So that's like 2 shots at the least there. Probably in a wide shot or 2 shots. So that's like 3 shots there. So like we know we have more setups inside and we have this one shot of him just walking in. So like why nitpick when this is just an establishing where the meat of the scene is when they walk in the door, right? So it's kind of like picking your battles. How much time do you want to spend on every little thing when like certain scenes are way more important than other scenes? And I know you guys will agree with me on this one, like 100%. Getting that like landscape vista shot or whatever, like how much time are we gonna, like it should be like 1 or 2 takes of a lovely vista, because those mountains ain't going anywhere. So why are we gonna spend like hours on getting like just a established shot of like the countryside, like in what's that movie that I just watched, Power of the Dog? Beautiful shots, beautiful wide shots. And I'm thinking they spent a lot of time getting those really gnarly dialogue scenes than on those vistas. You know what I mean? So it's like pick your battles. Make sure that you're like prioritizing what's important and what's gonna get the like more important scenes in the movie done. Because like, okay, maybe that establishing shot wasn't exactly what you wanted, but then we can spend more time on that dialogue. So picking your battles and making sure that you're thinking about the whole project and not getting too like detail oriented on like certain scenes, and just keep that in mind. Like pick your battles. Also with actors, picking your battles with actors, because sometimes they'll tell you what feels right for the character. And yes, there's going to be certain things that you want from a character, and you're like, no, that you have to say this because this comes later in the movie, or you have to grab this because this is a foreshadowing of what happens later in the movie or whatever, right? So you have to kind of like making sure that they hit those points, but in between, if they want to do something for their character, like make sure you trust your actor sometimes, because I've seen like serious fights between an actor and a director, just like not being on the same page about their character and being like, this doesn't make sense, why would I do that, blah, blah, blah. Like, it's crazy what happens between an actor and a director. And as soon as that actor distrusts you and you lose credit with that actor, they're not going to trust you for the rest of the show. And that's not a good place to be, because then they're going to do whatever they want. And then you've lost control. And then you're like, you're going to be in the editing room being like pulling your hair out because you couldn't compromise with them. So just keep that in mind, picking your battles and making sure that you're not fighting for the wrong things, making sure that you're giving time to certain things that need more time. And, again, trusting your crew, trusting your first AD, and trusting your director of photography. I mean, I've worked on a feature where me and the DP got along great, and then the director was kind of like on his own a bit, and no one in the crew trusted him. That's not a good place to be either, because like we were like, a lot of times they would come up to me and be like, why are we doing this? What is happening with this? And I'd be like, it's just what he wants. And they didn't understand, and he didn't really care to explain himself either. But sometimes, I guess, for my more introverted directors, you have to just make sure you make things clear to at least the first AD, at least that person, because then they're the ones that have the good communication skills, and they're the ones that can express those things to the crew. If you can't, keep that in mind. We're going back to communication skills, right? But just think, like, you have to at least tell a couple people so they can get it out to the whole crew. And if the first doesn't understand, the first AD doesn't understand, or like the DP doesn't understand what you're trying to do, if you can't get your vision across to at least those two people, it's going to be very hard to get it across to everyone else. Okay? Just keep that in mind. So like picking your battles, super, super important. So my last thing is probably the most uncomfortable for a lot of people who are engaging in directing, especially for the first time. I've noticed this more so with newer directors, and when you see directors kind of look back on their first thing, this is one major thing they always say, is that know that whatever vision you have for that movie, that short film, that commercial, that music video, whatever you're shooting, that it's not going to be exactly the vision you had in your head. And sometimes it could be better than you ever expected, and then sometimes it's not going to meet up at all to what you really thought was going to be the outcome. And I think that's the most shocking thing for directors to learn and realize when they first start, is they're like, so many things have to come together for that perfect vision in your head, and it's not going to come out exactly the way you wanted it to. And also, like, working with your editor too, it might come out like drastically different than what you were expecting in your head. So just keep that in mind. Like, it's not always going to be what you think you want it to be. And a lot of people get like bummed out and like, I really wanted this. And this goes back to like picking your battles, where it's like you don't have enough time. For example, I think there's like the three things. It's like you get money and time, but not quality, or you get quality and time, but you don't have enough money. Like, you can't have all three. You can't get quality, you can't get all the money, and you can't get all the time. So there's like two of those three things are what you can have in production. There's like very rare that you're going to have all three. It's like not everything that you're working on is going to be a Marvel movie with like unlimited budgets. Okay. So just keep that in mind, picking your battles, and like, what exactly can you get to your exact vision, and what are you willing to like compromise on more so? So like, I would feel like that I need to tell directors this, where it's like, yes, we're going back to that quote that I love so much by James McAvoy, that filmmaking is a miracle of collaboration. And there's nothing truer. And that goes for the director as well, because you're working with like costume designers, you're working with director of photography, you're working with people who are like masterminds of their departments. And you're trying to like bring it all together with the vision that you are trying to express. But that takes compromise, like you may have seen it one way, but then the costume designer says, oh, well, I felt this way, when I read the script and this and that. And you're like, okay, I like this, and let's build off that. It's like that weird yes and mentality. Not weird, it's not really weird. It's a really good mentality to have in filmmaking. But the more strict and the more like inflexible that you are as a director, it kind of like, it makes it harder to kind of get exactly what you want, So I would make sure that, you're willing to compromise, but also I know And I don't want anyone to think I'm trying to be like, oh, you have to bend to the will of everyone on set. No, because there are some things that you're like, no, this has to be exact. And that's when the pick your battles comes into it, where it's like, this scene has to be exactly this because of that. And that's like, sometimes I've seen that where as a first I would be like, no, it has to be this. It has to be this because of something that happened later or earlier or whatever. Because then if you mess it up, then it messes up the whole storyline. So there's certain things that you definitely have to be like, no, it has to be this. And that goes just back to the picking your battles thing. Remember, like, you can compromise on some things, but I know as a director and getting your certain, your certain tone or your certain look or whatever you're trying to achieve in your vision, you can't always change everything. Because then you might end up with a completely different movie. So it's kind of like there's like a weird balance, and there's a back and forth that's going to happen. So just know that sometimes you're not going to get the exact project that you think in your head. And just to review really quick, you know that you're a leader. Make sure your crew stays safe. Be appreciative of your casting crew. Be decisive. Know what you want. Stay healthy. Remember that everyone is human and we are not robots on set. Know that you have to have endurance. You need to have communication skills. And stay humble if you're a new director. Just kind of like don't go into it thinking you know it all, because you definitely don't. And even as an experienced director, you don't know it all. And know what battles that you need to fight. Pick your battles wisely, okay? And know that you are not going to get exactly the thing that you had in your head. So that is my overall, like, things you should keep in mind if you're trying to be a director. If you guys have any, like, comments, questions, I'm happy to answer, but that's all I have for this, like, keeping things in mind for if you want to be a director. I hope everyone has gotten something out of this, and we'll definitely go to the questions now. Sam Sai, micromanaging, is it a curse of having a lack of confidence or lack of trust in the vision, and until when you can push it? I don't think it's a curse. A lack of confidence, though, that is, people can see that coming a mile away if you don't have any confidence. And I think with lack of confidence as a director, it's kind of I don't know about a curse, but it's definitely gonna make you learn and grow in a certain way. If that answers your question. Like, lack of trust in the vision is what's going to kill you. That's going to be a curse, because if people sign on for your project and they don't understand what the hell you're shooting or what you're trying to achieve or what you're trying to say in it, then it becomes like people are not going to trust you at all. So I think that you want to make sure as a director that you have a costume designer that understands what you're doing. You have a director of photography that understands what you're doing. And this has happened many times where, like, you have to talk to your producers and be like, that director of photography we don't align. Our visions are not aligning here. And that's when you get a new director of photography, to get the person that kind of meshes with your vision in mind. And that happens all the time where, like, I've been in prep as a first AD and the director and the DP weren't seeing eye to eye and they changed the DP. And that has happened where it's like, or they change the costume designer or they change the production designer or, things like that. I think that, there is nothing wrong with changing those keys of the departments, because people are different, right? People are all different. And not everyone's going to have the same vision, right? Literally you take a script and you give it to, 10 different people in a room and they're all directors. Each director is going to have a very different vision for that script. And same thing with, your director of photography, same thing with your production designer, same thing with your costume designer. So thinking about, like, aligning yourself with the person you're getting along with. And mentioning to your producers that, like, this is not working out. I think we have to find a different director of photography or a different costume designer. And there's nothing wrong with that, because you want to make sure that you have those key heads of the departments. You want to make sure that they understand what you're doing, because if you don't and you keep going with it, it's just going to make for more and more, like, you're gonna have a divide in the beginning, and it's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger as you keep going in production. And it's just going to be this wide gap of, like, and it's going to cause, that's when you get, like, confrontation, and that's when you get arguments on set, and that's when it's like I've seen it too many times. So I hope that answered your question about, like, when you can push it and when you cannot push it. All right, my next question, Chesco. So when and how long would you take to build those relationships with actors in small projects? when and how long would you take to build those relationships with actors on small projects? Though your relationship starts building when you start casting. So if you're casting and you end up casting them and having like table reads, because the table reads are going to be very important to kind of like see how everyone meshes with each other's characters and how they mesh with their own character and how they mesh in like interacting with each other and how you mesh with them as a director. Because I think that with directing, there's a big part of it that is intuition based and how you feel about someone, like, and how they're like, how two actors are interacting and feeling that chemistry. So with directing, like, it's intuition. So I think that how you feel about them, it helps build that relationship when you like first start with casting, or when you start asking, you know, maybe you have a friend that's like, you love how they are as an actor, so you bring them on, so you've already had that relationship with them. So I hope that answers your question a little bit, Chesko, where it's like when and how long would you take to build those relationships with actors in smaller projects, where like it starts from casting, and it starts with like table reads and rehearsals. Rehearsals are very, very important, but you don't want to do too many rehearsals to the point where you're losing that authenticity sometimes when you actually get in front of the camera, because sometimes when things are rehearsed too much, then the actors kind of get robotic in a weird way, and they're like, oh, they've been here before and they haven't breathed new life into the character or whatever. So it gets kind of like, there's like a fine line, and actors, if they're good with how they feel with themselves and they can actually like read themselves, they'll tell you like, I think maybe we should hold off on rehearsal and I want to save this for when we're actually rehearsing on set in the space. So it takes like listening to your actors too as well. So moving on to so Chesko, I hope that answered your question, Chesko. I hope so. Let's see, on to Andrew. Amber, not directly related to the subject, however, thought I would let you know I got accepted on the second traineeship I applied to called Tom Foundation. Oh my God! Thank you so much for telling me. I want to like, okay, first of all, everyone's got to congratulate Andrew, because that whole, like last week I was like, don't worry about it, blah, blah, blah. But now you've gotten, I'm just so happy for you. So like, I'm clapping for you, Andrew. I'm so happy for you. That's amazing. I'm so happy for you. Like, I want to know all the things. So like, keep giving us updates and all these live streams that we hold. I want all the updates, Andrew. Like, tell me how things go, and that's just amazing. I'm so happy for you. So yeah, it's okay. You can tell me off topic things. I'm totally here for it. Ghost Rebels, we gotta have fun and stay humble. Yo, exactly. And I think that's very, very, very important, because some directors take themselves way too seriously. And I know that it gets a little complicated when you're talking about like serious subjects in whatever you're shooting, and it gets very kind of like, you can feel the tension in the room, and you're like, oh my God. So I think that sometimes people just gotta take a breath, take a step back and be like, what are we making here? You know? Because there definitely, like, not every scene in a movie is going to be super serious all the time, unless it's like, was that No Country for Old Men? Oh my God. I feel like if I ever worked on that movie, I'd be like, probably very like, very serious, like all the time. Or like There Will Be Blood, super serious movie, like all the time. So just like, holy crap. But yes, filmmaking, have fun with it as much as you can. Obviously making sure you're staying sensitive to like the actors and like the sensitive, you know, subject matter or the serious subject matter that they may have to perform in, and making sure you have like the right environment for the actors to perform. Good. I'm so happy, Andrew, that I'm so happy for you, and I feel like your happiness through this live stream. I'm like so happy. Nancy, thanks so much. Yes, very valuable information, inspiration. Thank you so much, Nancy, for saying that. Kate Nixon from Australia came in late. It's 5:07 a.m. Thank you for being here, Kate, because good Lord, 5 in the morning and you're on like a live stream. It's like Monday, 5 a.m. and you're watching this. Oh my God, God bless you, Kate, because whew, that's dedication. Like, thanks for like joining us for this few minutes. But you can also watch the replay of this for sure. 100% it's going to be up for you to catch the other, like when I first started, the other hour that you might have missed. Sam Sai, thank you very much for your answer. No problem. I got you. Thanks for that. From Chesko, how's it going with the writer-director from your... Okay. So Sam Sai, how is it working with a writer-director from your perspective? So here's the thing about working with a director who is also the writer. There are pros and cons to this. The pro is that
there's one opinion you have to acknowledge, right? And if it is separate, meaning there's a writer and a director, then you have to consult two people if the writer's on set and if the director wants the writer on set. So the con to that is that that opinion is coming from one person. Meaning, if you can't articulate what you need as a director and it's coming and you wrote it and the only thing is coming out of your head and I can't get it out of you, then I'm like, Christ, like, what do I do? So, like, working with a director-writer has its pros and cons, because usually as the writer-director, you're very sure of what you want, and that's great. But if you can't articulate it, then that's where it goes wrong. I think the pro to having a writer and director when it's separated is, like, there is that other person that can guide each other, and the actor can consult either the writer or director sometimes if they're trusting each other. And if the writer director don't see eye to eye, sometimes they can compromise. Sometimes that might be a little bit of a battle, like a push and pull. But sometimes the writer always wins in that regard. So, like, when you are talking about collaboration, sometimes bringing the two visions together makes just a better product like, than with having one mind. So I think sometimes, like, having it into one brain is okay, but sometimes it can make it better if there's a writer and a director. So it can go either way. There's, like, pros and cons to it. So I think it depends on who the person is. To be quite honest with you, Sam, I don't mind it, but then sometimes what happens that if they are the writer director, another con is, like, they get too inside their own head and they start to overthink things too much, and then they kind of, like, freeze up, and they don't know what to do. And I've seen directors freeze up where they're like, and I'm just like, okay, just take a minute. We'll set you aside for a second. We're going to continue setting up the shot. So, like, I have seen writer directors get stuck inside their own head and they freeze up. Like, they just can't do it. They just really can't do it. So any last question? Oh yes, the Oscars are on soon. Oh my goodness. I think tonight at 8:00 the Oscars are on. So definitely, I watched a lot of these movies. Not to change subjects or anything, but I haven't seen Coda. I wanted to see Coda. I've definitely seen Belfast. I've seen Dune. I've seen Power of the Dog. I've seen Tragedy of Macbeth. I've seen, like, a lot of the Oscar movies. So I'm kind of like, I'm excited to kind of watch it, and I'm glad it's, like, actually gonna be on and, like, a proper Oscars, and there's gonna be a host, and it's kind of cool because I recently am working with Regina Hall, and she's, like, hosting the Oscars, what I think is, like, really, really awesome. I'm like, how cool is that? Like, I met her. I've helped her get through hair and makeup. So yeah, I want to say another congratulations to Andrew for getting into this program and, like, not giving up. And I'm like, I'm very, very happy for you, and I can't wait to hear all the things about your journey. And, like, a year from now, we're like, oh my god, do you remember when on the live stream you told us that you got into the program? Oh my god. It's gonna be great. So a couple things for me. I'm definitely wholeheartedly sorry that I did not have a video ready for you on Wednesday. So I'm on a new gig. I'm working, like, 70 hours a week on this new thing, and as an AD, it is no joke. Being a DGA AD on union stuff, and I've just been trying to fit in shooting and editing, and it's, like, been nearly impossible to fit everything in 2 days. Like, because I have a social life, obviously. Yesterday I went to here's my little. I have a lightsaber because I went to the Fan Strike Back with my friends yesterday that's in New York, and it changes color because obviously I am a Sith, okay? And it makes noises. Sorry, I'm very excited about this thing. I did VIP, so it, like, I got this as a free gift, and I got, like, a cool picture. Sorry, I'm, like, nerding out right now, but I love it so much. And I'm trying to fit everything in, and, like, I did my resume workshop last week, and then I did a live stream with my guests last week, which I hope some of you guys were able to watch. I thought they were very, very, like, amazing to speak to, and some of them have such great advice. So if you missed that live stream from last week, that is up on the replay for you. If you missed the resume workshop, you can get, like, a replay of the workshop. If you wanted to, that'll be on my website. The links are below for anything like that. I haven't set another date for a resume workshop. So that date will be I mean, maybe I'll probably set that up maybe in the next few weeks for my next resume workshop. I'm gonna try and do one like quarterly, or like maybe like for every season, because I did one in the winter and I did one in the spring, like the start of spring. So I'm hoping to get one every like 3 or 4 months to kind of keep everyone, like, I want to give everyone the opportunity they can to do a resume workshop if they need it. It's there. I will continue to put them on. So, but also if you just want to like watch the replay, like you can do that too. You don't get to talk directly to me, but like it's still, the information is there for you. I'll take any final questions, you guys, before I log off, before I stop this live stream, which I'm just like, I don't want to stop. But I have a couple of other updates. Silent Treasures. Yo, Star Wars, I'm with it, honestly. If you guys are in New York, I definitely recommend the Fan Strike Back Star Wars exhibit. Really, really awesome. I loved it. Thank you so much, Jabari. Awesome stream. Thank you. Have a good week. Thank you so much. You too. I hope everyone has a great week. And my Set PA class that is happening in July, I have 2 spots left. It is quickly selling out, and I can't believe it's selling out. I'm actually kind of like, I mean, with every class I do, it is getting more and more like faster and faster sold out. So let's see, they have all of April, May, and then June. I have 3 months before the class is on. So what I think might happen, I'll start a wait list, and if I get so many people on the wait list, I'll just add another class in July. I'll have like 2 classes in July happening like back to back, week after week. So that would be amazing to have 2 classes in the summer. That'd be amazing if I could do it. Wow, like let's I'm gonna manifest this. Like, I'm gonna have so many people sign up for my Set PA class, so I'm just gonna have like 2 full classes in the summer. Like, how awesome would that be? But also I am gonna try and get a video out at this Wednesday. Depends, because today I'm seeing Batman for the first time. I know I'm like 3-4 weeks late for seeing Batman, the new Batman. I've been like trying to see it, but it's like a whole ordeal where it's like 3 hours to see Batman. It's like a 4-hour ordeal, but I'm excited to see Batman. And then like after that, I'll watch the Oscars. So like I'm trying to like not be bombarding myself with nothing but work and be on film school, but even though I love being on film school. There is going to be a couple of days off around Easter where I'm off, where I'm going to try and get some more videos made. I will continue to do these live streams. Then here's what's happening for me after Easter is that I get to go to Dominican Republic to film with the show that I am on now. I am blessed as far as I'm concerned. I'm so happy that they're taking me with them to another country to shoot the show that I'm on. And I was like, well, I was gonna be, happy having 3 weeks off, but then I was like, all right, 3 weeks in DR, I can do it. It'll be good. So I'm gonna try and live stream from there on not Sunday, because we shoot on Sundays. So probably Saturday afternoon. I don't even know if that's going to be possible. We're working 6-day weeks. So I'm going to be completely honest that I'm going to try and make them happen. They're not going to happen on Sundays. They're going to happen on Saturdays. So in April, May-ish, my live streams are going to be happening on Saturday. So just letting you know, I'll definitely schedule them out, and I will tell you my experience, because this is going to be my first like a union gig where I'm actually going to be shooting, with the show, and I move with them. Whereas like I know I've shot in Atlanta, and I went down there myself, and it was a whole thing where like now I'm a DJ AD, so I get treated a little bit differently. So I'll tell you my experience about like traveling with a show. So I'm very, very excited. So 3 live streams will be done from the Dominican Republic. So if you see my background be a little different, that's what's happening. So thank you so much for joining my live stream and taking my tips about how, things to keep in mind as a director. And I want to get to these Oscars. Oscars need Ricky Gervais as a host again. He was doing it, I think he did like 2 years in a row, I think, Silent Shredder, right? Like, and I'm always here for Ricky Gervais, but he can be a little too sarcastic where I think it's okay. I think I think 3 women is going to be, was it Wanda Sykes, Regina Hall, and gosh, I'm blanking. Oh my goodness, I forget. I can see her face, but I can't say her name, but it was the blonde white comedian. I can't remember her name. Oh my god, I can't believe it. Wait. I can't. Someone knows her name. The other host, women-led host. I'm okay. I'm here for the Oscars. Thank you so much, Daniel. Hey, I made it barely. Yes. So, Silent Shred. Yes, because I'm gonna be sitting down for 3 hours. I'm not gonna drink any water before this movie. So.
Thank you so much, guys. I will end it here. Thank you for my live stream. And yeah, I shall see you guys next week. Hopefully I have a video on Wednesday, but I'm gonna keep doing these. Yeah, so that is it for now. Thank you so much for supporting Beyond Film School and supporting me and what I do, and I'm here for you. And also, if you guys want to see a certain topic discussed, please put it in the comments below or in the chat, or probably not in the chat, put it in the comments below, because it'll be, now that I end, it's gonna be in the replay. So I just want to make sure that I'm getting, or, you know, because I put a poll, and this was the one that won by 30%. Like, it was pretty close for a while. When I was watching it last night, I was like, I don't know which topic to do. And I always put it to a vote. So definitely let me know what topic you want to see discussed in my next live stream. So that is it for now. Thank you so much for watching.